Why did this movie flop? How do bad movies happen to good people? 2015, we've got the top dog studio in Hollywood. We've got a visionary filmmaking duo, an A-list cast, and a massive budget. Jupiter Ascending. Made for an alleged 200 mil, so closer to 300. It made just 47 mil domestically and 184 worldwide. But this case is different. This isn't just about Jupiter Ascending. This is about the fall of Warner Brothers Entertainment. Okay, let's look at our timeline here. We start in 2001. Warner Brothers Pictures is led by a man named Jeff Robinov. Robinov is changing the game. You see, for years, studios have focused on one mega-budget tentpole film a year. But Warner Brothers starts doing 4 or 5 a year. It's a high-risk, high-reward strategy, but what makes it pay off is Jeff Robinov and his team. They have an optimized development process. They build good relationships with talent. And Robinov relies on intuition to determine what gets made. And he doesn't just value marketability, he values quality. That brings us up to 2009. 2 major WB moneymakers are ending, and it's time to find the next generation of hits. Robinov approaches the Wachowskis to create a new, original IP. The Wachowskis had given WB The Matrix, a billion-dollar franchise of immeasurable cultural influence. But they had also just given them Speed Racer, one of the worst flops of all time. Now see, Jeff Robinov approaches them anyway because he believes in creatives, he knows what the Wachowskis are capable of. However, he breaks from development protocol and greenlights the film without a finished script. 2010, enter Jeff Bewkes, chief executive of Time Warner, WB's parent company. Jeff Bewkes needs to find a new CEO for Warner Brothers. Jeff Bewkes decides the best way to do this is to take the 3 top executives and start a competition for the job. Jeff Bewkes thinks they're all going to work together. They do not. Late 2011, pre-production begins on Jupiter, but the Wachowskis are still in Berlin filming another project. And then meanwhile, back at the WB lot, the CEO power struggle is dividing loyalties and absolutely killing morale. January 2013, the fight for CEO ends, and Jeff Robinov loses to Kevin Tsujihara. The opposite of Robinov, Tsujihara is the safe choice with a reputation for cutting costs. Robinov is left with no authority, and Tsujihara remains completely silent on the renewal of Robinov's contract. In April of 2013, Jupiter Ascending is about to start filming when its budget is cut in half. The film the Wachowskis had designed is no longer possible. 2 months later, they lose their last advocate at WB as Robinov's contract expires, and he is successfully forced out the door. Jupiter wraps filming and enters the VFX stage, positioned as a big summer release. But test screenings go horribly. Reshoots happen twice, and then, 6 weeks before release, it gets delayed by 7 months. Oh my god, I forgot an entire paragraph. Jupiter Ascending releases in February. It opens in the 3rd spot with $18 million. It finishes with 37 mil in North America. Internationally, it makes 133 for a grand total of 184 mil. For the Wachowskis, it was their 3rd high-profile flop in a row. And to this day, it remains their final blockbuster as a directing duo. All right, now that we have all the facts, let's get into our findings. And right off the bat, I'm gonna say this. Look at Channing Tatum in this movie. As minor as it may seem, weird hair and or makeup is one of the classic types of box office poison. If it looks goofy, if it doesn't land, it's going to hurt the numbers. And he looks like an elf. And as much as I hate to say it, this is something that an executive, especially Robinov, probably would have tried to change. The next factor is the film itself. The content of a film is rarely a factor in financial performance, but sometimes it is. And this film did not connect with audiences. It was greenlit without a script. The Wachowskis were spread thin across projects. It might have needed more time to cook. And it definitely would have benefited from the Robinov-led development pipeline that everyone involved was used to and probably expected. But the real reason is right there, isn't it? The studio. Studios are dumb. Corporations are mob mentality writ large. A. Warner Brothers slashed the budget in half. The Wachowskis designed a certain film for a certain amount of money, and you cannot take that amount and cut it in half on the launch pad and expect success. You just can't. 2. They didn't do that because they anticipated that it would flop. They did that because it was born of old leadership. This is a particularly stupid aspect of corporate culture. In a regime change, one must dump everything approved by the last guy, lest you risk validating their legacy. D. WB did not choose Romanov for CEO. Under Romanov, they had Christopher Nolan, the Hangover franchise, Harry Potter, and even a statue for Argo. And he also made his fair share of flops. But Jeff Romanov understood that when one endeavors to make an omelet, one must crack eggs. And yet, he was skipped over for a more fiscally conservative option. This case, the cycle of a bad company. They find themselves in trouble, so they bet big on creative talent. The bet pays off, but eventually they get anxious. They reach for safety in cost-cutting measures, but that safety seldom produces good products, entertainment, or art. They find themselves in trouble, and the cycle begins again. Now, as of right now, it looks like WB's on the rebound. They've put all of their comic book properties in the hands of James Gunn. James Gunn could go on to make nothing but billion-dollar hits for the next 10 years. But Time Warner is a corporation, and inevitably, even the most golden of geese will be reevaluated for a safer alternative. Case closed.